Can you get a passable early Van Halen tone using pedals costing less than $100 each? Let's find out. So the exercise here is to see how close we could get to the early Van Halen tone using pedals costing less than $100. So let's go over the signal chain real quick. So I'm using my Frankie, and I'm going to be playing through my Egnater Tweaker 40, and the Tweaker allows you to voice between American, Vox, and British, which is basically Marshall. And I have it voiced on the American setting, so it's basically emulating a Fender. You know, the vintage switch is set to vintage, and everything's pretty much dead stock. And the clean on that is basically pretty dry. So coming out of the Egnater, we're going into my Boss Tube amp expander, and then that plugs into my interface, and my interface goes into Studio One. And in Studio One, I'm using a 2x12 closed back speaker cabinet with greenback G12s in it. And so basically, that's the signal chain. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is replicate the Marshall sound. With the Egnater set to the Fender setting and basically kind of stock, dry, clean sound, we need to get that Marshall punch. So the pedal that I'm going to use for this is the Joyo British. It comes in at $39.99, and it's basically a Marshall in a box. It very closely resembles the Tech 21 Sans amp. It has this voice control, which is very interesting. It allows you to go from basically a darker flavor to a light. If you own or ever played through one of the 4-hole Marshalls where you could jumper the 2 channels, you can use the 2 volume controls to blend in channel 1, channel 2. Channel 1 being the bright channel, and channel 2 being a darker, kind of woollier channel, and you could blend those in. And that's exactly what the voice switch does here. You know, so the dry, you know, basically, we keep the pedal on. You turn the voice down, you see it kind of gives it that more JTM flavor. 60s. You turn that voice up, you're basically blending in the bright channel. So that's basically the Marshall sound that we're going to go with here. You know, I had preset everything so you didn't have to watch me sit and twist knobs for 20 minutes. So moving on down the signal chain, we've got to add a little bit of delay. Eddie Van Halen, he used an Echoplex, and it's basically set to, you know, 1.5 repeat slapback type of thing, and it was kind of an always-on effect for him. It's very subtle. You got to listen to it in most cases, but you do hear it. For the delay, I'm going to use the Joyo Aquarius. It's set on the tape echo setting to give it that darker repeat type of flavor. The Aquarius comes in at $96.99, and it's the most expensive pedal we're going to play with today. This pedal I've actually bought for $89.99, but I believe they've come out with a revision 2, and the revision 2 adds 5 minutes of looping, whereas this one I believe only has 2 minutes of looping. Really cool pedal. It has a lot of good settings on it. You know, it does reverse delay, and it does lo-fi, and delay with trails and all kinds of stuff. But for this exercise, we just got it on the simple tape, and it's just a slapback. You get the idea there. And we'll turn that off. The next thing we've got to do is reverb. The reverb that they used was the plate reverb at Sunset Sound. and it's pretty famous. In fact, IK Multimedia has a plug-in that emulates that particular plate reverb, so it's going to be very hard to duplicate here at home, but we're going to try. And for that, I'm going to use the Joyo Atmosphere, and the Atmosphere over here, it comes in at $89.99. It has 9 different settings. I've got it set on the plate, obviously, to emulate the plate reverb at Sunset Sound. And so basically with the reverb kicked in, we're just giving it that splash of reverb that it needs. Turn that mix up a little bit. Kick in the delay. So you can see with all 3 of those, that's basically the backbone of the sound. So we'll see how we did here. In order to do that, I have Eddie's isolated track for Running with the Devil, and I'm going to rewind that real quick here. And so I'm going to play, and then I'm going to play it back to back. So let's see how close I came. So leave a note in the comments to let me know how close I got. Next we're going to play with some modulation effects. I'm going to put on the Joyo Phase 90 clone and their MXR Flanger clone, and we'll see how close we can get to some of the sounds he got on songs like Atomic Punk and Ain't Talking About Love with the Flanger. So I'm going to put these 3 pedals on the pedal board, and then we'll plug the modulation pedals in, and we'll continue on with this experiment. Okay, we're back, and I've got everything on the pedal board now. To round out this experiment, we're going to employ the Joyo Classic Phaser and the Joyo Classic Flanger. Both of these pedals cost $34.99. And the Phaser is basically a dead-on replica of the MXR Phase 90. And the Flanger is basically a replica of the MXR 117 Flanger. I do have the Eddie Van Halen version of that MXR Flanger, and it does have a button you can press, and it will give you that unchained sound without having to fiddle with the knobs, which is kind of cool and saves a lot of time if you're going for that sound. No presets on the phaser, obviously, because you know, basically the Van Halen phase tone is basically, you know, 9 o'clock, somewhere around there. So kick in the phaser here. So basically it gives you that cool atomic punk sound. I know I butchered that, but you kind of get the idea. Moving on to the flanger real quick. Basically it's... Now what I actually set this up. I put the MXR flanger side by side with this one, and I got and I pressed the Eddie Van Halen button on it, and I got the two as close as I could. So basically, if you're going for that unchained, this will do it pretty well. Again, for a $34 flanger, it's pretty good. Let's try that again. Timing on that's a little difficult, but you get the idea. Going back to the first record, though, we can... So there you have it. Eddie Van Halen sounds using pedals for under $100. Was it exact? Absolutely not. I could give you a whole list of reasons why you'll never get that tone. I'll never get that tone. Biggest reason is none of us are Eddie Van Halen. So, but we certainly didn't have the equipment. We didn't have the speaker cabinets. His Marshall head that he used on that first album had a couple of had a fat cap mod, and the mid pot was 50K rather than the stock 25. Of course, there's the reverb at Sunset. You know that you really can't duplicate very well. The 1176 compressors that were used in the studio. There's a whole bunch of reasons why that tone is so elusive, but it's always fun to try. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please give it a like, and if you're interested in hearing, seeing more of these types of videos, definitely subscribe, and let me know what you think. I appreciate everybody watching. Have a wonderful day.